Hello. I've been playing Tekken 8 and was struggling trying to find a Nina guide for Tekken 8 specifically. And after putting some time into her, I decided to try and make a guide for her as a beginner for other beginners that want to pick up Tekken 8 and want to play Nina. So start off, I want to talk about her very basic 1-2 combo, the 1-2-1, 1+2. It's a pretty reliable string. It's all highs, but it deals good chip damage. But because it's all highs, it's pretty susceptible to crouches. So I know what you're saying. John, what do I do if my opponent crouches? And there's a mix-up for that. Instead of doing 1-2-1, 1+2, instead you can do 1-2, 1+2, and it'll do your normal 1-2, and then hit middle. But now, I'm sure you're asking, but John, what if my opponent is just blocking high for my first string? In that case, we have another mix-up for that. That is a 1-2 sidestep into a 3-2. It'll hit low and then hit high. It's pretty good if your opponent is just consistently blocking high and isn't crouching your main string. It gives them something to think about. But if they block the down 3, or the low 3, you will be negative. So I'm sure your follow-up question is, Jonathan, what do I do if they block the low 3? And I have a mix-up for that too. I got a mix-up for days. All right. You do 1-2 sidestep into 2. It is a launcher, so you can get a combo off of it. So yeah, the idea is you condition your opponent into blocking low after your sidestep. And then once they start doing that, you do your other mix-up, your 1-2 sidestep 2, and launch them, which can transition you into a combo. And have a section later for combos that you can do. I'm sure I have the combo going up on screen right now. So those are your basic 1-2 strings and mix-ups. Now let's go into low buttons. Down forward 3+4 is your sweep. It's pretty slow. It's unsafe if they block or if they hit you middle. But if you have priority, or it's your turn, and your opponent keeps blocking high, this is good to mix in there to sweep them. But let's say you want something less risky. I know Nina's got a bunch of low strings, but for me, a consistently good one has been down 3-4-3. It doesn't seem to be super unsafe. If my opponent tries to mash in the middle of it, they're gonna get smacked. And yeah, it's just, I found that it's pretty consistent. And now here's a funny button that I've used occasionally, but I don't use this very often, but I can imagine a lot of utility for it, is quarter circle forward 3. It has a lot of range, and it kind of looks like it starts off high and it transitions down to a slide. It's pretty unsafe if your opponent reads it and blocks it, but if you need like a last second low from a distance, this one fits the bill. Now, what are just strong buttons in general to press? Forward 1+2 hits middle, and it's strong if your opponent is throwing higher middle attacks at you because it has armor. It's unsafe on block, but it's a little deceptive visually that it's unsafe. Oftentimes I'll throw this out, they'll block it, and there will be no follow-up. But if your opponent starts blocking it and punishing you for doing forward 1+2, there are alternatives such as quarter circle forward 1 and quarter circle forward 2. I don't use them very often because forward 1+2 normally does the job, and I haven't been getting punished for for my opponents blocking it. But those are options if you need them. Next up is forward 4-2. This is another middle attack. It's really strong if your opponent is throwing a lot of low attacks out because it goes over lows. It also punishes wake up low attacks. If your opponent's consistently doing a low kick on wake up, the forward 4-2 goes over the low attacks. And then there is forward 3. It's a, I know it's a pretty good button. I don't hit it very often. Normally when I would hit forward 3, I'm probably trying to sweep, but not sweep, launch. But launching, if it's blocked, is obviously unsafe, and forward 3 is significantly safer. You can also follow up forward 3 if it lands and it knocks down to a very quick forward 3, hold down the second forward. That'll kick on the ground. I'll repeat this later, but never let your opponent get away with just laying down on the ground. If you see your opponent on the ground ever, I want you to drill into your memory to hit forward 3 and just kick them on the ground. Don't let them get away with it. There is a side note that you can't do forward 3 while you're running. It'll do a different move that doesn't hit the ground. But if you're within that first stash distance, forward 3, punish those people that are being lazy and lying down on the ground. All right, next up, let's get into the launchers. Back 1+4 is your pretty standard 15-frame launcher. Yeah, there's not much to say about it. It's your 15-frame launcher. I have noticed that sometimes after you do your full 1-2 string, so that is 1-2-1, 1+2, you can toss out your back 1+4, and sometimes if your opponent hits like a fat button or decides to walk at you instead of like trying to hit a jab or something, this will launch them. Next up, your next launcher is down back 3+4. It's a launcher from a pretty far distance and can be kind of hard to react to if your opponent doesn't see it coming. It's more unsafe, but it is good to have in your repertoire if you find yourself at like a medium-ish distance outside of jab range. You can toss this out and try and catch people off guard. Generally, this is like if your back 1+4 can't hit, your down back 3+4 is there. It's also really good for whiff punishing. If someone throws out a really big button and whiffs it, your down back 3+4 can close the distance and get that launch out for you. Next up is your down forward 2. I know this is Nina's normal launcher, but as a beginner, I've personally found it's been difficult for me to try and land it into a launch. I've been able to hit it on people crouched, but it doesn't launch when people are crouched. So I'm sure it's safe on block. So I'm sure there's a place for it, but I just don't press that button often, but I know it's good. Next up, let's get into throws. I know Nina has a pretty wide throw range, but as someone who's just trying to get the basics down with her, I've just narrowed myself down to down forward 1+3 and down forward 2+4. They deal pretty good damage, and the down forward 1+3 is a 1 break, and the down forward 2+4 is a 2 break, so you can mix people up with it. Eventually, you can add some of Nina's more signature throws in order to deal more damage, but just to keep things simple in the game plan, these are pretty good. Normally, if I'm trying to hit people with throws, I will start off on the down forward 2+4, just because it's a 2 break, and if you do down forward 1+3, sometimes people will try and mash their jab. So they'll like break it accidentally without even knowing that you're throwing. And then if people start throwing or start breaking your 2 throw break, you can swap back to the 1. All right, next up we have the a combo. I use the same combo for all of the launchers. I'll have the notation up on screen with some gameplay. But yeah, this is the same combo for all your launchers. It does pretty good damage. I got this from another video. I'll tag the video I got this combo from in the description. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Works for all launchers and trying to keep things as simple as possible. Small note that there is a minor variation in this combo. If you hit a floor wall break, you can do this combo, just a tiny variation. You just skip the first button that you normally press after your launcher. And the same applies for your 1-2 sidestep chew if that launches. Because there's, I guess, less distance, you have to do a slightly smaller combo. But it's after that's the same string, which is why I like this combo. Yeah. And then just general game plan for meaties. If someone stands straight up after you get a knockdown on them, meaty throw them. Sometimes people will stand up and mash on you and hit you out of throw if there's like distance between when you throw them and when they get up. In that case, hit them with the down forward 3+4, the sweep, force them to try and adapt. And then if they start crouching because you're doing that a bunch, you can generally try and meaty a launcher. And if people are being really annoying and are trying to low kick you on wake up, forward 4-2, again, goes over low attacks. So you can punish them with that. Yeah, so that's basically the buttons I found that are pretty effective on Nina and the rough game plan I've come up with. Let me down in the comments if I got anything wrong or if there's ways to improve this general flow. But yeah, this is my Nina guide for beginners from a beginner.